Okay. So simply put, we're going to explore social entrepreneurship with Ann Chambers today. And social entrepreneurship, simply put, is an attempt to draw upon a business technique to find solutions to society's most pressing social problems. So the idea of pressing social problems addressed by the social entrepreneurs out there really runs the gamut from green renewable topics to changes in society. And we might not think of people like John Lennon and Yoko Ono to really been a social entrepreneur. To give you a little visual on that. But they did indeed use their celebrity status back in the late 60s and their music to bring about the awareness for the need of peace at the time. The landscape of social entrepreneurship today is really exploding, and we're now seeing it everywhere and the topic being discussed. And what I'm actually showing you here real quickly is a magazine that I created and actually Ann Chambers is a contributor to called The Social Entrepreneur. Later on in the show notes, we'll actually give you a link to this if you're interested in reading up on more topics on the social entrepreneur. But these, everybody's writing about these topics. I'm going to actually skim down here and show you a short presentation on a typical social entrepreneur today.
When you stand on a busy street corner and watch the cars go by, what you see over and over is one person driving around 4,000 pounds of steel powered by an inefficient, pollutive, non-renewable resource. And when you multiply that to the mass scale, what you get are choked urban congestion and environmental disaster. Yet existing manufacturers and new entrants alike have failed to introduce the much needed, viable, mass market solution, which is why I started Comodo, to develop products that catalyze the shift to a sustainable transportation system. We'll achieve this by introducing a true disruptor into the vehicle marketplace. Now, I know the word disruption has been well and truly beaten into satirical submission around Silicon Valley, but we use this word in the academic sense. We're introducing the vehicle that brings a fundamentally lower cost business model to an overserved market and allows non-consumers to participate for the first time. Over 7 years, we've designed and built 7 models on the path to the urban ride of the future, to where we are today. We've designed a new electric vehicle platform. It includes cutting-edge battery and drivetrain technologies, as well as an overall ultra-efficient vehicle architecture.
Introducing Ann Chambers, my friend and CEO of Red 212, an agency focused on social conscious companies, and a founder of Bright Future Foods and co-creator of, I never can say this, Ann, is it Mommy? Is that right?
It's mame. It's
Mame.
actually it's just a shortened piece of the word edamame. So it's mame.
I gotcha. Okay, and it was a mission-driven edamame snack. Is that right?
That's right. It was.
So give us a little background, Ann, in terms of on your first encounters with social entrepreneurship and why it really matters.
Absolutely. Thanks, John. No one has asked me that question for a while, so it's kind of fun to think about. It's very vivid for me. My first encounter with social entrepreneurism, and it was sometime in the 80s. I was reading Time magazine. I was visiting at my parents' house, and there was an article about Anita Roddick, who is the founder, I'm sure you probably know, the founder of the Body Shop. And this whole article was about how she was engaging all of her suppliers, everywhere that she sourced her product. She was creating these little micro industries all around the world. And it was the first time I had really seen that. But I remember sharing that story with my mother. God love my mother, because she was always this way. And so Anita Roddick was in the UK. She started her business in London, which you might remember. In fact, she's a Dane, or was a Dane before she died. My mother said, "Oh, Anne, you must go to England. You must meet her." I didn't, by the way. But it made me realize the power of business. And shortly after that, two things happened. One is she came out with a book called Business as Unusual, which is kind of a primer in social entrepreneurism. And I think it's a really must read for anybody interested in that subject, even though it's old. And then the second thing that happened was in the late 80s, in 1987, a new organization was formed called Social Venture Network. And this was a group of business people who had this idea that they wanted to create a platform for business, socially responsible business owners to connect with each other and really support different entrepreneurs who are trying to create a values-driven and sustainable world.
Okay, yeah, that's some good input. I think what's interesting too, Anne, is that over the years, a lot of these issues have always been addressed by organizations. And these nonprofits typically did not have a sustainable business model outside of their own donor base. And today, that's evolved. Not only evolved as in way of our own thinking about social entrepreneurship and the social concerns, if you will, but also so has corporations. And I know that this is something that you've actually investigated quite a bit into, and that is the idea of the B corporation, or some people call it the benefits corporation. Do you want to elaborate a little bit on that for me?
Oh, yeah, one of my favorite subjects. And I don't remember what year B Corps was started, but I think it was around 8 years ago. It was a group of people actually who came from Social Venture Network, and they got together and decided that, it was becoming so popular that they wanted to find a way to actually monitor the companies that were making claims around making a social impact. So they created this thing called a B Corp, that's CORP certification, and it's quite an intensive certification process, but they're very helpful in helping people get certified. I think there are around maybe 1,200 companies that are B Corp certified, so really not that many, which tells you the rigor that it takes to get certified. We're in the process of getting certified. But again, and I hope to have that done in a few months' time. That's one of my 2016 goals. But it's all about, their goal is to make sure that that everything that these socially responsible companies are doing is verified in terms of social and environmental performance. They look at public transparency, how you're treating your employees, legal accountability, and also really encouraging people to use their power to solve social and environmental problems. That's really the overarching goal.
Right. And of course, Anne, what you were actually talking about was the certifications. And I'm going to expand on that topic just a little bit, because today you really have two choices. One, if you have an existing corporation, you could actually become certified, as Anne just pointed out. Or for newer corporations, you can actually incorporate in, I believe, about 75% of the states and across the U.S., you can actually incorporate as a benefits corporation. And the notion of a benefits corporation is really quite simple, in the sense that that it expands it expands the focus of the corporation, so it's beyond just bringing value to your shareholders, and allows the board of directors actually to issue mandates and give direction for the company itself, to not only bring about value for the shareholders, but also to fulfill its mission in whatever particular area of the social conscious topic, or socially responsible efforts of that organization. So there's a couple recent examples of that. You and I talked about this, and just recently, which was Kickstarter, who's pretty well known in the crowdfunding market, literally decided that they had such they had such a large participation in the wellness of these startups and small businesses that they decided that they should incorporate the B concept, if you will, within their corporation. I actually believe that what they did was, from what I read, was convert their company to a true benefits corporation.
That is a great point, and that is a difference from the B Corp that I was talking about. Yeah, the benefits corporations are amazing, and as you said, they're authorized by 30 states. They're not authorized in Ohio just yet, but 30, that's pretty good. That really is indicative of such a change that we're seeing. And well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, do you think that the idea of benefits corporations kind of came out of the fact that, I think we all know over the course of our entrepreneur life, if we may have looked at actually initiating or starting a nonprofit organization and come to the realization that the time, effort, money to start a nonprofit is really outrageous in my opinion. I mean, because it takes months, it takes a lot of lawyer time, a lot of costs to start one of
Yeah.
those, and so it almost takes the air out of your ambitions, to go solve a particular issue. And this is a quicker way to market. What do you think about that?
I think you're right. I mean, I do think seeing a 501(c)(3) started is very difficult, but I also think it's a whole paradigm shift in terms of how businesses want to be structured in terms of addressing social change. They don't, I think up until now, I think that the way that it worked is as much as you described, which is you'd have a company, and then, and this is what we did as well, then you'd have a separate entity that you could funnel some profits through to make your social impact. But with a benefits corporation, now you can do that very differently. And I think a good example, and I'm not saying that this is a benefits corporation, but it's another way of addressing social change that is not through a nonprofit, is the entity that Mark Zuckerberg just created for Facebook. He didn't create a nonprofit to put his fortune in. He created an actual for-profit company, which I think is the wave of the future. I really believe that that is.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a good point, Anne. And the idea, and what I would like to do is shift our conversation a little bit to focus more on what exactly the social issue is, because it's really a wide gamut, and a lot of times, I think when people start thinking about social, they think about things like green energy, which certainly is a part of that, but or feeding the hungry. There's a lot of great examples, and here's from Forbes that actually lists uh, a whole gamut of people who are involved in the social entrepreneur movement. And you have some good examples. So let's give our audience a kind of a little sampling of some of the different things that have been done out there.
Sure. Well, let's see. A great one to start with, of course, is one that we all know and love, and that's John Mackey, who is the founder of Whole Foods, who completely took on the issue of foods, organic foods and availability of great foods in our country. And now you can get great organic foods at Kroger or Safeway or anywhere. But John was the leader in that, and I think he's a really good representative of how one can affect change. And I'm talking, these are big ones. There are small ones all around us, but Howard Schultz is another great example of a social entrepreneur with the way he approached Starbucks and everything that he does with his business there in terms of how they treat employees, how they look at their business assets and say, our every storefront is an opportunity to communicate to our clientele about social issues. And he does that beautifully. He uses the walls and the messaging and even the cups to really talk about social issues. So those are a couple big ones. One of the things that I'm excited about that started a couple of years ago, but is now just getting some groundswell, was started by a guy that I know in the ad agency business named Alex Boguski out of Boulder, Colorado. Boulder's a hotbed of social entrepreneurism. And he started something called Common Brand. And what that is an incubator and community for socially conscious companies. And they get to go there and work together all with a common mission, but each one solving different social problems. So as you said, it can run anywhere from, green energy to hunger issues to gender parity, you name it. There's just a million issues that we can address through our businesses.
So what next, Anne? What do you think? What should we be looking forward to, or what do you think are some of the things on the horizon for social entrepreneurism?
I think what I'm imagining is going to start happening is as people build businesses or are running businesses, I think what people will start to do, and I hope that this is what people will start to do, is to look at their assets. What are the assets that they have in the company, right? So you might have started a company that was not founded with the principles of social entrepreneurism, although truthfully, I've yet to meet a founder who really wasn't out to make a difference in the world. And even if you went back to the founders of big companies like what we have here in Cincinnati, Procter and Gamble, those two gentlemen were definitely out to make a difference in the world as well. But things change when companies, when they have to answer to shareholders and everything changes. What I see in the future is each company looking at their assets. And as I mentioned with Howard Schultz, it could be real estate, it could be financial resources. It could be, if you're a logistics company, it could be that you've got trucks that you can use. It could be simply that you have a lot of employees that you can leverage. But how can you leverage what you have to address a social problem? And the best way, I think, is to get to the core team of founders and hopefully find a common mission that you can address. But the key for me is that it's not cause marketing. And I think that's what we're seeing the evolution of in some ways. Cause marketing helped to kind of drive a fire in the conversation. But the successful social entrepreneur goes way deeper than cause marketing because it becomes part of the company's DNA. And I think that's really the difference, is really building it into everything that you do. And that's what these organizations like Benefit Corp and B Corp are helping all of us to do. And that is to say, what else can we do and where else should we be looking internally to make the changes? What do you think are some of the things on the horizon, John?
Well, I think what's really interesting, Anne, is maybe not what's on the horizon as much as the employee engagement, meaning I think that this gives the employees of these benefits corporations kind of a renewed sense of being, or a new sense of contribution, because not only are they doing well at their job, but realizing their job ultimately impacts other people and other industries, or maybe the things that we do every day, right?
Oh my gosh, yeah. And I can speak from experience here, the way my employees have responded over the years to the commitment to social entrepreneurism and some of the things that we've done here. It's where I see them get the most fired up when they know that they're making a difference with what they're doing. It's just exciting.
Well, it is, and I think that's the beauty of social entrepreneurism is, again, typically, as you had mentioned, on a founder's level, you might associate yourself with like-minded people, and then use that as kind of your catalyst to move the company forward. But truly, the fact of the matter is that, the value of a company is only as good as the people that are inside that organization. And I just, to me, I think it's a very exciting era that we're about ready to embark on, both you and me, incidentally, because uh, you and I are both social entrepreneurs. I exist in my world with the belief that, I think that our society has a whole model of helping small businesses with their challenges wrong. And we as an organization, meaning Adventure Labs and BizBuzz America, is going to go out and try to make a difference. So anyway,
Yeah.
yeah, I think that what we're about ready to see is a lot of changes here in the future. So this idea of the social topic, I think that we're going to see it launched into new areas and arenas that we would never have ever thought of, and which is kind of interesting because it gives it gives it gives it gives the fundamental groundwork for people to literally think of these issues in a different way. And
I
yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, I agree. I think, for so long we looked to other institutions to kind of address social change. For so long
Yes.
it was government or it was religion, the churches. Now I really think it's business that is holding the key to addressing these social issues, and it's an exciting time. You mentioned employees. One of the things that there are so many different things that you can do to engage your employees. One of the things that we've experimented with, and we experiment with a lot of different things here, but one was when we always take a percentage of our profits, which a lot of the companies do, but we always put some toward adoption because that's my personal cause, but we invite our employees then to say, do you have a cause that you would like to think about donating to? We've and that was fun. It was a good way to engage people. We've moved away from donating to charities though, because what we want to do is make sure that what we're doing is infusing more social businesses. So we do more micro lending ideas now than just donating to charity. But I love people who donate to charity. I'm not saying that that's wrong.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. I mean, that was really the concept of corporate engagement on social issues was to, in fact, to give to charity. But as you pointed out, I think that was largely based on the fact that these issues were always being addressed by either a government agency or some sort of nonprofit organization and required that sort of thinking. Today, excuse me, we can think outside of the box and realize that we don't need actually to go and affect change ourselves.
You just cut out there for a second, John.
I'm sorry. It must be, I apologize.
That's okay. It was just a second.
Okay. So, anyway, it takes us down to the bottom of our half hour, which is what we allowed, and I want to remain respectful for those people who have taken the time out of their schedule to join us. And so, what I would like to do, Anne, is do, if you don't have any closing comments, or if you do, let's go ahead and do those. If not, we'll move into a Q&A session. Okay.
You know, my only closing comments are just to encourage people to bring their voice forward as business leaders, because I think once people start hearing you speak about it, they get so excited and so engaged, and you'll find more and more people that want to have that conversation with you. So I would just say engage as much as you can.
Super. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move into Q&A. I will also say afterwards, if you want to continue the engagement, we do have a Twitter hashtag that is like this. It's hashtag succeed for good. And if you simply just reach out and tweet to succeed for good, I'll respond back to you, and Ann will too. And but our platform allows so we can take chat questions if and we want to open up and get some questions from our audience.